Is this the quietest insulated pad on the market? I've been testing the Exped Ultra 6.5R for the last few months, and I'm impressed at how they haven't just focused on warmth and comfort. Instead, they've made a holistically better pad that's lighter and thicker than their previous Ultra 5R and significantly quieter than the competition. Let's have a look at the specs. Tipping the scales at 425 grams for the matte only in the medium wide mummy shape that I've got, plus an extra 76 grams for the pump sack and 24 grams for the storage bag and repair kit. It's the lightest of the all-season wide pads that are commonly stocked in Australia, and it retails for 340 AUD, making it one of the cheaper ones too. The 6.5 in the name is actually a little misleading, with the R-value testing at an impressive 6.9, which is closer to most advertised winter pads, although this one is marketed more as an all-season option. The fabric used is a recycled 20D ripstop polyester with TPU polyether film laminate, and the insulation is a recycled Texpedloft microfiber with a single layer of reflective foil. Now, this is on the thinner end in terms of protection and durability when you compare it to its competitors, but it should still be plenty thick enough to remain puncture-free if you're careful with your campsite selection. The use of microfiber insulation and one reflective sheet, as opposed to the multiple reflective sheets that are in most other pads, is the reason why it's so much quieter than its competitors. It's an innovative solution to insulation, and one that seems to have limited drawbacks, as it hasn't particularly increased pack size. It's nice to see that almost all of the materials are also recycled, and the mat itself comes with minimal packaging. At 9 centimeters thick, it's definitely not the thickest on the market, but with the help of its vertical baffles and raised outer baffles, it's impressively stable, and still plenty thick enough to not bottom out while sleeping on it. Okay, now that that's out of the way, what's it actually like to use? Let's have a quick look. First are my initial impressions after my first night on it, and then after a few months of using it.
So this was my first night on the Exped Ultra 6.5R, and I had a pretty cozy night's sleep actually. I think it was forecast to get down to about 4 or 5 overnight, and yeah, it definitely felt pretty chilly. So, not properly testing out the extremes of the R value, but a good test in some cooler weather, and yeah, definitely passed that test. I guess the first things to really note about it is the shape. I've gone for the medium wide mummy, and I was actually quite impressed by how much I enjoyed having that extra width at the shoulders, and also the extra big baffles on the side that really keep you centered, even though they don't go the whole way down on this mat. I really felt quite cradled and wasn't at risk of rolling off at any point. You'll notice that it doesn't seem to be fully done up. I did inflate it all the way, and then I generally like to sleep with my mats a little bit deflated, so I slowly just let a bit of air out until I felt quite comfortable, and this is where I fell asleep. One of the first things I noticed when I actually got the mat was these little toggle things. I haven't actually had a mat before where it was super easy to connect the pillow, and so I was really excited about these. And to be honest, I definitely haven't figured out how to use it best yet. It's quite close to the top, and it kind of tapers a lot here. So the way I had it, the pillow kept falling off the edge, which didn't work so well, but I like the idea. Not sure on the execution. I'll have to have another go. Could well be user error on my behalf. The other thing that I wanted to talk about briefly was the length of the mat. So this is just the regular length, which is 183 centimeters long. I'm about 180 centimeters, and I did actually feel like I was kind of on the edge of the height limit. If I was any taller, I probably would have gone for the longer version. Just by the time you've got a pillow here, as I said, with a bit of movement around, my feet were always on the mat, but I could feel the end of it. So yeah, anyone a bit taller than me, 6 foot and over, I'd definitely suggest sizing up to the long version. It's got the in valve and the out valve. So 2 valves instead of just the one with the double stopper. There's definitely an argument for efficiency in terms of just using the 1 valve and being able to save a bit of weight there. But this pad comes in pretty impressively light for its R value and for the wide version, even though it's at the mummy. So I don't think that's too much of an issue here, even though maybe they could have saved a few grams. What I actually did really like about it is I think anyone who's used one of those double valves before has inflated the whole pad, gone to pull out the pump sack and pulled out the whole tab. It's a good lesson, and it's pretty easy from then to just make sure you've got your thumb in the right place when you pull it off. But I did enjoy that there was no risk of that happening with this mat. This little tab thing allows you to micro adjust. You can just push in and let a bit of air out until you kind of get to that right amount for you, which is what I was doing last night. So I thought that was a nice touch, even though you could just about do it with your finger. In terms of the stuff sack itself, this was my first time properly using the Exped one, which is actually a really interesting design. So they've basically created a whole dry bag that you can cinch closed, and then at the bottom you can also seal it there. So I know a lot of people will use that in their pack as a bit of a pack liner, or at least to store the mat instead of taking this little bag with them every time. And I was just really impressed with how easy it was to pump it up with this sack. Like most pump sacks, it's quite easy. But the size of this one is a lot larger than any other I've used. In terms of comfort, a few teething issues, as I mentioned, with the pillow, so I'll have a go at playing around with that, and I'm sure I can sort that out. And the other thing was just getting the air pressure right for me, which I think, I slept quite comfortably with how it was, so definitely a bit more experimentation to be done there, but first impressions were great. As I said, the shape, the extra width, even though this is the Mummy, the extra width around the shoulder and even the width at the bottom I found completely fine. And the slightly raised baffles on the sides worked really well, keeping me centered. I definitely noticed the vertical baffles compared to dimpled baffles that I've used in the past. And I think it's true that they don't offer as much pressure relief if you're a side sleeper. But to be honest, that's why I let a bit of air out. And once I kind of found approximately the amount of air that I wanted in there, that worked really well. In terms of inflation, you've obviously got the in valve here. Open that up. Undo the pump sack. Plug them in. And then this is what I was talking about with the huge pump sack size. It's just super easy to get a large amount of air. So as you can see, with not even 3 pumps, that's completely done up. And then as I said, you don't need to worry about pulling a valve out or anything. It just comes straight out like that. And then that's a bit firmer than I'd like it. So as I was saying with this little piece, you can just use that to push this through. And you can micro adjust and then close that. Flip it over and you've got your pad fully inflated to the amount of pressure that you want, and then you've got your insulation on the top, so that's the right way up, and that's going to keep you super warm and comfortable overnight. So there's a bit of a size comparison as well. I've got a 1 litre Nalgene here and then the mat, so yeah, a little bit bigger when you're not doing anything with it, but by the time you kind of squeeze it, it ends up very similar in size. All right, I've now had quite a few nights on the Exped Ultra 6.5R. And my overall thoughts are that it's super, super comfortable. Inflated it a little bit more than I had initially, and I think that works because of the stability of the mat with the wider outside baffles. Just feel really centered, and I don't feel like I sink into it too much, but still super comfortable. My one complaint, which I think is actually specific to the medium-wide Mummy version, is there's these little tabs at the top to loop your pillow around the pad. And because of the taper at the top, I think it just doesn't really work. On the rectangular pads, it's actually a bit down, and so you can really cinch it tight around the top of the pad. But for this, I've actually just added some Velcro to my pillow, a bit like the Cedar Summit system. So a couple of Velcro strips on the back and then on the pad as well. And that's been working really well. So that's kind of been my solution to get around that. So given that other similar pads don't have that, I think it's a little bit of a fail on this one, but I don't think that that's necessarily an issue because it was kind of a value add anyway, and it would be very easy to chop off if you were after the 2 or so gram savings.
So Exped use polyester in their mats instead of nylon. While nylon is slightly tougher per gram, Polyester doesn't stretch or sag overnight when the temperatures drop, meaning that the firmness that you put in your mattress will stay there consistently overnight. It's also more UV resistant and more sustainable. Is it the toughest mat out there? No. But the real question is it durable enough? I've tested it across plenty of surfaces and I've never felt like it was at risk of popping. If I'm on rough ground, I'll clear it as much as possible and add a footprint or even a closed cell foam mat underneath, just like I would with any other pad. It comes with a repair kit and a 5-year warranty. But if incredibly high durability and redundancy is your primary concern, then I'd suggest you look at something like the Thermarest Xtherm NXT with its 70D bottom. But this adds weight and cost. The minor material differences between its direct competitors and the Exped Ultra just aren't big enough to make a huge difference to durability, in my opinion. Now, the included schnozzle pump sack is easily one of my favorite features. Because it uses a proper roll top closure and a valve seal, it doubles as a fully functioning dry bag. The two biggest wins with the Ultra 6.5R are the noise level due to its bonded insulation, which makes it insanely quiet for a mat with this high of an R value, and also the medium-wide mummy shape itself. You get that shoulder width comfort of a wide pad without dragging an extra 100 to 150 grams of useless weight at your feet. I tested this down to about -1 degrees Celsius, paired with a 4-degree Neve Gear summer quilt. I know, it got unexpectedly cold, but I felt zero chill from the ground. I haven't managed to get to the snow with it, but I'm confident that with a proper winter sleep system, you can push this a lot further. I put this 6 to 7 kind of R value category in the true 4-season bucket for non-alpine use. If I was heading into full snow or alpine environments, I'd still stack a closed cell foam pad underneath for extra insurance. So my final thoughts. The Exped Ultra 6.5R is a big upgrade from their previous 5R. It's lighter, warmer, thicker, and comfier. It takes it from a budget option to a market leader. I particularly love how quiet it is, the shape options available, and the dry bag pump sack. While I wouldn't choose this pad if maximum durability is your priority, I think it's plenty good enough as long as you look after it, like most other pads.